Hey everybody, it's Jaron. I hope you're doing great. I hope your school year is off to a really good start. So to get going today, I wanted to play a game. So this game is called Which One Was First? So what'll happen is you're gonna see the titles of two different Bible stories on the screen. And all you have to do is figure out which one came first. Which one, like in the history, in the timeline, which one was first, right? That's all you gotta do. So you're gonna get about 10 seconds and then it's gonna show the answer. And we're gonna play 10 rounds, okay? You ready to play? Which one was first? Here we go. been talking about the parables of Jesus, right? Now, these parables are just stories. They're made up stories. Jesus made them up, maybe even on the spot, as a way of answering questions, of helping people understand something that they were after, or helping people understand that they were wrong about something. And so before we get into the story for today, let's review. So the first week we talked about the parable of the lost coin, right? And we talked about how God loves us so much that he came after us. He came looking for us. We were lost to him, and he came, and he didn't stop until he found us. And then last week we talked about the parable of the unmerciful servant. And this was a story about how we need to remember how much God has forgiven us, that he has forgiven so much of us, and it should change how we forgive other people. It should change how we act and how we are able to love and forgive other people. Now, before we get into the parable for today, I want to ask a question, and I want you to talk about this together with your families. What are some of the best gifts that you've ever received? Like, what are some gifts that you were so excited to get, right? Maybe it was something you had asked for a long time, and you finally got, or maybe it was something you didn't expect because, man, it was just, I couldn't even hope for that, and then you got it, and you were so excited. So what are some of the best gifts that you've ever received? So think about what it was like when you got that gift, right? When you, when the day came and you got the present and you opened it, and like it was the thing that you wanted, right? It was the thing that you were so excited to see, and like your heart just like was gonna pound out of your chest because you were so happy, you were so excited, and so you get it out and you play with it. Or maybe it wasn't a gift, maybe it was just something you had hoped for or wanted for a long time, and maybe you saved up for, or your parents made you wait or whatever, and so you go to the store finally and you go and you grab it off the shelf. And you would grab it off the shelf before, but you always had to put it back. But today you don't have to put it back. Today you get to take it home, and so you get it home and you get it out and get it all set up. Like, how excited were you that first time? Like, it was so much fun. You were just, it was so new, and it was like this amazing thing, right? Now let me ask you, how long did that last? That feeling of excitement, how long did that last? When you played with it the second time, was it still there? How about the third time or the fourth? Like, it's a funny thing. We all go through this where we want something and we get it, and it's exciting and it's fun and it's new. And then some time passes, and even if it's still something that we enjoy doing, even if it's still something we play with, that excitement starts to go away. And before too long, it's just kind of like normal. And then something else catches our attention, something else that we don't have that we want, or maybe something new comes out or whatever it is, and now it's, oh man, look at that. And so kind of in our mind, we have this thing that we've been wanting for so long, and now we're like, okay, I want that now, right? Like that's kind of what happens, and we have this idea like, okay, that was fun, that's cool, but oh, now I want that, and now I want that, now I want that. It's funny, we typically don't stay happy for that long when we get what we want, even if it's something we really, really wanted. Maybe it's a little bit of time, maybe it's a lot of time, but before long, we're not that happy with it anymore. it's just something that it's easy to kind of to fall into, of just, okay, what's next? Okay, that was fun. What's next? And I want that now. Okay, now I've had that, and it's kind of boring now. Now I want that. And if we're not careful, we get caught up in this cycle of, no matter what we have, it's never enough. Like, I always want more. I always want more. I always want what's next. Okay, I want that new thing now. That is called greed. And that's no good. Greed is not good. And that's the very thing that Jesus talks about in his parable today. We're going to be looking in Luke chapter 12. In Luke 12, starting in verse 13, it says, "Then someone called from the crowd, 'Teacher, please tell my brother to divide our father's estate with me.' Jesus replied, 'Friend, who made me a judge over you to decide such things as that?' Then he said, 'Beware. Guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own.'" So it's interesting. Sometimes Jesus kind of tells a parable and then he has to go back and explain, like, here's what I meant by that. But on this one, he tells us right up front. He hasn't even gone into the story yet. He says, like, this is the point. Be careful about greed. Guard against every kind of greed. Life is not measured by how much you own. Don't get caught up in stuff. And he was talking to these two men that were arguing over their family estate. So maybe it was their parents had died or something like that, and left them, land and money and all this kind of stuff. And they were arguing over who got what and who gets this much and that much, and how is it fair, is it even, all of that kind of stuff. And it gets bitter, it gets nasty. And so they can't decide. They're getting like really nasty toward each other. So they go to Jesus and they say, "Jesus, tell him to give me what I deserve." And so they're both kind of saying that. And Jesus kind of like, it's like, whoa, 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 I'm not going to do that. And you need to be really careful. Like, guard against greed. Life is not measured in how much you own. There's some stuff here that you've kind of got out of whack. And so then we read on starting in verse 16. It says, "Then he told them a story. A rich man had a fertile farm that produced fine crops. He said to himself, 'What should I do? I don't have room for all my crops.' And then he said, 'I know, I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll have enough room to store all my wheat and all my other goods. And I'll sit back and say to myself, my friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Now take it easy, eat, drink, and be merry.'" So far it's it's a good story, right? Like, this guy, he's a farmer and he gets this crop in and it's bigger than he could have imagined. It was bigger than he'd hoped for. It was more than he actually even needed. And so much so that he had these barns where they would store all the grain so they could, live off of it for, the year. And his barns weren't even big enough. So he says, well, there's more here than I could have imagined. What do I do? And instead of like getting rid of it or selling it or giving it to the poor or whatever, he's like, no, I'm going to tear down my barns and build bigger ones. And now I can fit all this stuff. And so now he's got enough to live on for years and years. So he says, I'll just kind of kick back and I'm just going to enjoy life because I've got everything that I could want. Now, this seems like kind of a cool story, right? Like, this guy has everything. There's nothing he can't have because he's all of a sudden so rich. We might know people like that. Like, if there's that kid in school that, man, it seems like they're always coming with a new thing, like a new toy or a new gadget or a new game system or video game or whatever. Like, it seems like when something new comes out, like they've already got it somehow. Like, they're the first ones to get it. Is there like nothing that they don't have? Like, it's kind of like that. It would be like a 6-year-old running around with the latest iPhone of their own. It's like, what in the world? Like, that's way more than you need. Now, that's kind of the picture Jesus is painting. Here's this guy that has more than he needs by far, and he's been blessed, and he's got everything, and there's really nothing that he doesn't have, or nothing that he's not gonna be able to get now because he's got so much. So you would think this is a good story. We might even look at this guy and go like, yeah, that's what I want, right? I want to just be able to kick back and go, I've got everything I need, and if I don't have it, I can go get it because I can get whatever. I've got so much that there's nothing I can't have now. So it's interesting. Jesus kind of takes a turn in this story. And in verse 20 it says, "But God said to him, 'You fool, you will die this very night. Then who will get everything you worked for? Yes, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. He calls him a fool, and he says, like, God comes to him and says, like, hey, that you got all this stuff, great. What you don't realize is that you're going to die tonight. Then what? All this stuff that you have, where does it go? Because it's not coming with you. You don't get to keep it. You thought you were set up for years and years and years, and you didn't realize, like, no, it's all going to be gone. Like, somebody else is going to get it now. Now, I want to be really careful here about what I'm not saying. Okay, what I'm not saying, what the Bible is not saying. It's not saying that it's bad to have money, or to want more, or to want stuff, or to want something that I don't have. That's not bad. There's nothing wrong with wanting things, right? Like new cool things come out all the time, and it's like, oh man, that's awesome. Like if there's a movie trailer that comes out, we see, oh, I want to go see that. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Just recently, actually, I got to do something for the very first time. I got to play VR, like on a headset. So I had the headset on and the headphones, and I had the controllers, and I'm like learning how to do all this stuff, and I'm sure I looked like really dumb, but I didn't care because it was so much fun. Like it was awesome. I had no idea how cool it was. And so I played for a while, and I got done, and I think my first question was like, okay, so how much are these? Because I want one. Like I wanted one. Like it'd be so cool. That's not wrong. It's not wrong to want stuff. It's really not. So that's not what Jesus is saying. There's things that you want. There's things that you don't have. Or there's things that you have, and it's not wrong to have them. Like if you've been blessed and you know your family's got wealth, and you just get a lot of things, you have a lot of things, great. Like you should not feel guilty about that. That's not the point of the story. Jesus is not saying like, hey, don't want money, don't want stuff. Like that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is life is not about stuff. Life is not about money. He calls this man a fool to store up earthly wealth when he didn't have a rich relationship with God. Like it's not that he was storing up stuff. It was that he was doing that and making that the focus of his life. Meanwhile, he did not have a rich relationship with God. So what Jesus is saying here is that relationship with God is more important. In fact, it's the most important thing. That the true happiness that we're really after, it's not going to come through more stuff. Because we know, like, no matter what we get, it's going to wear off, and then we're going to want something else. And like that, we're going to always get caught up in that cycle. We really should be focused on a relationship with God. And a rich relationship with God. One where we're going, like, as the more I learn about God, the more I get to know God, the more I want. Like, okay, now I've man, I feel like I've grown deeper in my relationship with God. I want more, and I want more, and I want more. Like, that's what we should want more of. That should be our focus. Not that money and stuff and all, that's not bad. But Jesus here is saying, like, that's not the point of life. You weren't created just to enjoy stuff. God gave us lots of stuff to enjoy. Like, God gave us this world to take care of and to enjoy. Like, that's a big deal. But that's not why we were made. We were created in order to have a relationship with God. That's the point. So that's what I'm offering you today. Just remember what's really important in life. It's okay to want things, and it's okay to have things. It's okay to want more of something. There's nothing wrong with that. Just don't get caught up in that too much. Like, that's not the point of life. Don't make that the most important thing, because it's not. The most important thing should be your relationship with God. A rich, deep, growing relationship with God. That's the point. That's the most important thing. Let's pray. God, thank you so much. Thank you for blessing us. God, you give us more than we deserve. Because really we don't really deserve anything. God, you've given us all so much, and it's easy to get caught up in the things that we don't have, and always want more, and want this, and now I want that. God, help us to not get so caught up in that. God, remind us every day of what's really important, of what's the most important thing, and that's a relationship with you. God, as much as we want stuff, help us to want you more. And God, let that be the focus of our lives. We thank you. We love you. It's in your son's name. Amen. All right, guys. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.